Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Quick, and this is Little Breadcrumbs. Today's Breadcrumbs is going to be about the origin of language. Language is about the understanding through communication by means of reading with your eyes, writing with your hands, listening with your ears, and speaking with your mouth. I'll make a video in the future on what communication is like without one or more of those things, but for this video, we're going to just assume that you have all working parts. Everything we understand comes down to just shapes and ideas for the things that we don't have shapes for. Then, for each thing, we need to make a translation that we can just carry with us. If two people cannot speak the same language, for them it's no different than saying that each person doesn't know any language. In order to communicate, they need to make a new way of understanding. If there is a cup on a table and you want it, the first instinct you might do is to point at it. But why? To be clear, pointing itself doesn't just mean give me. If I see a spider on the table or a mouse somewhere in the room, I'll point at it, and I can assure you that me pointing isn't saying give me that thing. To understand why we do the pointing, we need to go back to the very beginning. And it turns out that it should be no surprise that pointing has been an essential role in our evolution. Humans are pack animals, so when we see something, we have to alert everyone, either using a pointing of danger, telling everyone where the danger is, or using a pointing of safety, telling everyone where to escape. This brings up the old famous fight or flight response. And outside of just pointing, we also do this through screaming. The similarities between pointing and screaming have the same intention to alert, but screaming has a much wider range, making it more important. When something scares you, screaming tells everyone who can't see you that something is happening. And here we have a point of morality. If you don't know what a danger is, should you help them or escape yourself? We know that if something dangerous is too close, you can alert someone by screaming and using your hands to protect yourself if needed. But if the danger is far away, screaming gets people to look at you, and then if you point at the danger, you've now guided someone to see something that they may not have noticed. Back to morality, when someone is first alerted when the danger is from someone else, it's up to them to make the call to more people to either help the person in danger or to escape. This means that pointing and yelling have three different meanings. There's the danger, escape, and helping. Screaming gets you to look at the right direction, while pointing does the same but in a more specific area. And if pointing was to have a single definition, it would be basically, look at this. If you point at a glass on a table, I might not know that it's a glass without looking. This is why it's a funny prank to point at someone's feet in a scared response. They'll think that something is there on the ground to get them, and it's quite common for the victim to scream because they don't really know what to point at. For this simple prank, we'll notice that another meaning has entered the ring. Emotion. If you're calm, I'm calm, and then I can take my time to investigate. But if you're scared and I don't know what to be scared of, or how much time I have to investigate, it leaves me no choice but to expect the worst. I don't plan to make a video on or further discussing emotions specifically, but we do know that all animals use emotions to convey their feelings. But moving forward in time with humans, there's a lot of time spent without danger. We traveled across the world and explored many things, which brings me back to what I said earlier. We need to make a translation that we can carry with us. Basically, everything that we explore and find can't all fit into our pockets we use today. If I was in a desert with no glass or water, how do I ask for water? I could point at my mouth, but how do I express the difference between water and food? If I pretended to hold a burger and then chomp, I'm imitating eating, or if I pretend to hold a drink and then sip, I'm imitating drinking. This is using body language as a form of sign language. We naturally talk with our hands and imitate the stories we tell, especially when we're talking to someone who doesn't understand us. It's like speaking to them in two languages at the same time. But sign language isn't universal. Different cultures agree that certain shapes and motions have different meanings, and the same applies to speaking. Different sounds have different meanings. When people were first making a language, there was a lot of pointing and a lot of sound making. but it's only when a group of people agree that the same sound or the same shape means what they agree on it to be, and it becomes its own language. Over time, the way that languages make more words, change sounds, will eventually split into an accent. Think of the difference between the UK and America. They're both English, but they're said differently. Water, water. Going deeper in that they have different words for things. They say garage, I say gas station, they say flat, I say apartment. Eventually, as more words change and more sounds change, it'll eventually split into their own languages. Think of English and German. English is a Germanic language, and they have a lot of words that are similar and guessable, but there are also a lot of words that are too different, making it no longer an accent but its own language. If you want to learn a language, a relative family language will be easier to understand than a distant cousin one. The further you go, the less words you'll not only agree on, but not even be able to guess with. When it comes to writing, we now use letters instead of symbols, and although this helps a language be more efficient, it becomes more difficult for other languages to understand. My next video will be more on writing efficiency. I'll talk about kanji and Latin letters, compare them both, their pros and their cons each. Then I'll discuss solutions for them both and also discuss how a universal language is possible by mixing them together. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments down below, but that's all I'm going to be doing for this video about the origin of language. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,